So this concludes my solo demo playthrough of Demon Castle Mononoke. But what do I think of the game? Well, let me tell you. Before I get started, I want to mention again, keep in mind that this is still a prototype and some of the components are even handmade. So I can't really say too much about the final production quality yet, but I can definitely talk about the theme, the art, and the gameplay. First of all, I absolutely love the theme. I'm personally very interested in Japanese folklore and mythology, so this game speaks to me immediately. Even the role-playing adventure I wrote has a similar kind of theme, so this is very much up my alley. I also really like how the theme is implemented here. The art style is also fantastic. I really enjoy the look of the entire game. I do get the feeling that some of these images might be based on original pictures from Japanese mythology rather than being made specifically for the game, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Either way, the artwork is amazing, and I really hope the final production keeps this look or at least something very close to it. In terms of gameplay, this is a very tense and very tight cooperative game. You will never have all the resources you want. You will never be able to fend off everything perfectly. You have to make difficult choices, make sacrifices, and accept that your characters will get injured because they simply are not strong enough to prevent everything. But that is also not your main goal. Your goal is to stop the castle from losing one floor. And if you can somehow hold things together until the very end, then you win. Even that is incredibly hard. So yes, I think this is a very hard game. But I like that challenge quite a bit. It doesn't feel unfair most of the time. It always feels like you might still somehow make it, even though your resources are far too limited. I also really like the strong cooperative aspect here. This is not one of those cooperative games where everyone mostly does their own thing and somehow it all works out. Here you really have to work together. You lose your focus, you need help, and then the question becomes, how do you help? Do you heal another player? Do you grant them strength? Do you do something else entirely? Maybe you have to rest. Those are all things you will really need to discuss in a multiplayer game, and I like that a lot. Of course, in a solo play you don't have those discussions, but you still feel that cooperation between the characters because you always need to control at least two. That is a small nitpick. You cannot play this true solo. So if you really dislike controlling more than one character, that might be a downside for you. Personally, I don't mind it here because the actions are limited and it's very easy to keep a good overview of what your character can do. I also like that the table space the game needs is actually quite minimal. I really hope that the final box will also be just large enough to hold everything without taking up unnecessary space on the shelf or on the table. One thing I really enjoyed is the Book of Dungeons. All these pop-up Mononoke elements are a really cool touch. Again, this is only a prototype and it was handcrafted, so the final version will of course be more polished and we have more pages as well. But even here the idea works really well. Having that little pop-up book as kind of a backdrop or diorama on the table adds a lot of atmosphere, and I really enjoy that. There is also quite a bit of variety in the game. You have several different characters that all start with the same basic values, but each has different focus tokens and therefore a different way of playing. On top of that, the Mononoke themselves all change the tactics of the game with their own attacks and effects. That gives the game a nice amount of replayability. And also you have different floors that you also have like come out during the game. And while that kind of variety is not absolutely necessary because you will probably need several plays just to get better at the game in the first place, it is still really nice that you can explore more of the game while doing that. One thing to keep in mind though is that the game can sometimes feel a little unfair, even though I said before that it mostly doesn't. Some attacks can be extremely strong, and sometimes you need to roll to see how many attack cards you draw or how strong certain attacks become. That can lead to moments where your characters get downed very quickly. That said, being injured or downed is not a lost condition in itself. It mainly accelerates the destruction of the castle, so don't find it quite as punishing as in some other games. Still, it's worth mentioning if randomness is something that is bothering you. Another thing I really like is the build-up towards the final fight. The anticipation is handled very well. You know that every broken gate will increase the power of the final boss, so from the very beginning you're already thinking about that endgame. And as more and more cards pile up, the tension naturally grows because you know the Mononoke will only become harder to defeat. It makes for a really satisfying climax and also interesting decisions because you can actually break gates on purpose for like these effects here. For 5 rounds you try to fend off yokai and hold the castle together, and then at the very end you face the Mononoke itself. That's a very cool finale, and I really enjoy that structure. All in all, Demon Castle Mononoke is a very unique and very challenging cooperative game with a fantastic theme, a strong visual identity, and a lot of tension throughout the entire experience. The cooperation feels meaningful, The gameplay is tight and demanding, and the build-up toward the final confrontation is handled very well. While the game can occasionally feel a little swingy, and it doesn't offer a true solo mode, those are relatively minor points in what is otherwise a very thematic and engaging experience. So if you're looking for a highly cooperative and quite difficult game with an interesting theme, this might be just the game for you. As usual, feel free to check out the link to the campaign in the description of this video. Well, that concludes my playthrough and review of the preview copy of Demon Castle Mononoke being funded of Gamefound right now. Oh, and one more thing before I finish packing up. The differences between this prototype version and the final version will be that you will have more Mononoke pop-up pages, just like I mentioned. And depending on the final funding regarding like stretch goals and everything, they expect to have like 6 to 8 Mononoke, each with like a full 3D pop-up page, which is very cool. Also, graphic design tweaks will be done. So all cards are going to get a graphic design because like the Broken Gates, for example, don't have that yet, right? Also, like the Fallen Truth and Regret cards will be integrated onto the page instead of having separate cards, things like that. And finally, there will be an alternative game mode where one player takes control of the Mononoke and plays against the human players. So very interesting. You have like a 1 versus all mechanism, but you can also play like just 1 versus 1. So also very interesting mode if you don't want to have like just the full cooperation. You can also have that. Thank you so much for watching and for staying to the very end of this video. As usual, my thanks go out to all of you. A special shout out to all my generous patrons. The biggest thanks go out to Thecos for supporting me at the highest tier. I truly appreciate that. You can support me by watching, liking, and commenting on my videos, subscribing to my channel, support me on Patreon, and joining my Discord server to hang out with me and my amazing community. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the very next video or my Discord server. Take care everyone, stay safe, and cheers!